Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Borderless Minds, a podcast where we talk about everything ADHD and mental health related. No BS, just real talk that actually makes sense. So, I need to talk about something that's been bugging me for a while now. I have ADHD, and almost every time I tell someone, they have these ideas about what that means. And most of the time, they're completely wrong. I get to hear things like, so you just can't sit still, right? Or that means you're hyperactive, right? Or we are all a little ADHD sometimes, which is not correct. That is not what ADHD. So today I want to break down the biggest myths about ADHD because these misconceptions, they're not just annoying, they actually hurt people. They stop them from getting diagnosed, from getting help, or from understanding themselves. So let's clear this up. Here's what ADHD is not. Let's start with the big one. ADHD isn't a real disorder. This is what a lot of people think. This is what a lot of people say. I've heard this so many times. People think it's just made up by drug companies or that is just a normal kid behavior that we're over-diagnosing. Here's the truth. ADHD is the most researched condition in psychiatry. We're talking about over 10,000 scientific studies, and it's recognized by all the major medical organizations. Brain imaging studies show actually physical differences in ADHD brains. Kids with ADHD have smaller brain volumes, especially in areas that control attention, impulse control, and emotion regulation. It's not an opinion, it's not a trend, it's a neurodevelopmental disorder with a genetic component. In fact, if one of your parents has ADHD, you have a 57% chance of having it too. If you're a twin and your sibling has it too, you have a chance of 70 to 80% of having it. This isn't something parents or teachers made up. This is your brain being wired differently from birth. So when someone says ADHD is not real, what they're really saying is that they don't understand the science behind it. And that's fine. But don't tell people with ADHD that their lived experience and their brain scans don't matter. Myth number 2, it's caused by bad parenting. This one makes me so angry. People see a kid with ADHD, they're impulsive, they're interrupting, they can't sit still, and they immediately think that kid needs more discipline. Let me be clear. ADHD is not caused by bad parenting. It is genetic, it is neurological. Research shows that parenting style contributes almost nothing to whether a child develops ADHD or not. Yes, parenting matters for how a child learns to manage ADHD, but it doesn't cause it. When I was a kid, I would blur things out in class. I would forget my homework. I would lose things constantly. And people would look at my parents like they weren't doing their job. But here's the thing. I knew these behaviors were wrong. My parents taught me. I just couldn't control my impulses the same way other kids could. That's what ADHD does. Telling parents that it's their fault is cruel, and it stops families from getting real help because they think they just need to be stricter or more consistent. The problem isn't discipline, the problem is brain chemistry, and no amount of punishment will fix that. Here's a myth that really hurts people. ADHD only affects boys, or girls don't have ADHD. The problem is that ADHD looks different in girls. That's why they don't get diagnosed as often. Boys with ADHD are more likely to be hyperactive and disruptive. They're running around, talking out of turn, getting in trouble, so teachers notice and parents get them evaluated. Girls with ADHD are more likely to have the inattentive type. They're daydreaming, losing focus, forgetting things, struggling to organize. They're not causing disruptions, so nobody noticed they're struggling. Girls often get diagnosed years later than boys, sometimes not until adulthood, and by then they've spent years thinking they're just not smart enough, not trying hard enough, or not good enough. I know women who went decades thinking they're just failures at life when really they had undiagnosed ADHD. This myth is dangerous because it means girls aren't getting the help they need and they grow up internalizing all this shame for something that was never their fault. ADHD doesn't care about your gender, it affects everyone. Myth number 4: if you can focus on things you like, you don't have ADHD. This is probably the myth I hear most often. I hear things like, you can play video games for 6 hours straight, so you can't have ADHD, or you can read books you love, so clearly you can focus when you want to. People think that ADHD means you can't focus on anything. That is not true. ADHD isn't a deficit of attention, it's a difficulty directing your attention. When something is interesting, engaging, or provides immediate rewards like video games, our brains get the dopamine they need, and so we can hyperfocus for hours. But boring tasks with no immediate rewards, our brains aren't getting enough dopamine to stay engaged, so we can't focus no matter how hard we try. It is not about wanting to focus, it's about our brains literally not having the chemical signals needed to sustain attention on unrewarding tasks. So yes, I can spend 3 hours researching something I'm interested in and then forget to eat lunch because I can't pull my attention away. And I can also sit down to do my tasks and my brain just refuses to cooperate. Both of those things are ADHD. They're not contradictions. They're two sides of the same attention regulation problem. Myth number 5: ADHD is just being lazy or unmotivated. I've heard this my entire life and it's completely wrong. Lazy means you could do something but you don't want to. ADHD means you want to do something and you can't. People with ADHD are not lazy. Most of us are trying twice as hard as everyone else just to get the same result. I have sat down to write a simple email and spent 2 hours trying to start, not because I didn't want to write, because my brain would not let me begin. That is not laziness, that is executive dysfunction. Lower IQ, also not true. ADHD has nothing to do with intelligence. Many people with ADHD are extremely intelligent and creative. We just process things differently. The problem isn't ability, the problem isn't motivation. The problem is that the part of our brain that helps us start tasks and follow through on tasks isn't working the same way. So when you tell someone with ADHD they're lazy, you're basically telling someone with a broken leg to just walk better. Myth number 6: you outgrow ADHD. People say things like, don't worry, they will grow out of it when they see kids with ADHD. No, they won't. ADHD is a lifelong condition. Most people don't outgrow it. Yes, symptoms can change as you get older. Hyperactivity might decrease. You might develop coping strategies that make it less noticeable, but the underlying condition doesn't just disappear. Studies show that 50 to 80% of kids with ADHD still have it as teenagers, and 35 to 65% still have it as adults. I'm an adult now with ADHD. My symptoms look different than when I was a kid. I don't run around the classroom or my room anymore, but I still struggle with time management, organization, starting tasks, and regulating my attention. The difference is that I've learned strategies to cope, but I didn't outgrow ADHD. I just got better at working with my brain instead of against it. And here's the thing, when people believe this myth, they don't take ADHD seriously. People say things like, oh, they will be fine eventually. So kids don't get the support they need, and they struggle unnecessarily for years. So, those are some of the biggest myths about ADHD. It's real. It's not caused by parenting. It affects all genders. You can hyperfocus and still have ADHD. It's not laziness, and you don't outgrow it. Understanding the truth matters because when people believe these myths, they don't take us seriously. They think we just need to try harder or grow up. But we're not the problem. The misconceptions are. If you have ADHD, you're not lazy, you're not stupid, and you're not broken. If this helped, please subscribe for more and let me know in the comments what you want me to cover next. I actually read them. So you're not broken, you're just figuring it out like everyone else. So see you in the next one, bestie.